There's so much to cover, and I've only got a limited time to do it, so it's going to be a streamlined version. I'll be happy to take specific questions at the end of it. A little bit about me. I've been in residential construction, like you said, for about 37 years. Been building here in Portland for 22. Started building ADUs in '98. What that means, other than I'm very old, I've had quite a bit of experience here in Portland building, and I was one of the first ones to build it since the zoning code. Just real briefly, a lot of this stuff was covered through some of the other presentations. If you were here for those, I'll just summarize some quick things, and then we'll talk about the process of thinking you want to build an ADU through getting it started and getting it under construction. We'll talk about timelines and things like that. But as you may or may not know, there's 3 different ways to build an ADU. The most common for me in my business is detached, where it's a separate little structure away from the house. It looks like a mini version of the house, like code requirements. Then attached, this one attached to the existing garage there. This is the ADU right here in the existing house here. There's all different, each one is just totally unique. So there's infinite number of ways these things can be done. It's really dependent on a particular property. And then within the structure, this is a little less common for me, but this is one that's pretty extensive. It's an 800 square foot ADU in the basement of this house. We created this outside entrance with steps down in, and we did egress windows, window wells, and did a 2-bedroom ADU. This was where this fellow used to live, moved to Japan, and there was a rental, and wanted to increase his rental investment by doing that. Worked out great, but it was, for me, almost more involved in doing a detached. We actually lowered the slab to get more height and the foundation. Old homes in this area, a lot of them don't have footings. So we had to really create a foundation under the house with people living in it. So, quite a challenge. This is what I'm mainly going to talk about today. And I have these for handouts if you like them. It's a flow chart. I've answered this over and over again, and finally, after years and years, I do it. It's a flow chart I can hand people. But it's the process of doing an ADU. I start with my customers with what's called a feasibility study. And I'll show you that. I'm going to jump ahead a bit, and then we're going to come back to this. Whether you build or whether you do this with me or another builder, this is the first step. You've got to answer the questions on does it fit on the site, how does it fit on the site, how's your design going to work, what size can you build, what's it going to look like, and most importantly, how much is it going to cost. And does it comply with everything that the city's guidelines for building ADUs? That's the way I approach the feasibility study. And I have one copy, or next copies of these up there too, if you'd like just a copy. This is what I do for my customers as the first step. But it itemizes everything out that you're going to need to do, or you should. So here's the timeline, and I take my customers average about, it takes about 3 to 5 weeks to put together a feasibility study of all those components. Now I'm going to jump ahead. There's the copy of the agreement that I do with my customers that you can get a copy of. That is the cover of the feasibility study, which comes in a little booklet like this. Contains everything I'm going to show you. Again, I'm not here to necessarily promote myself and how I do it, but these address things that you should be addressing. First step would be the site plan. Where does it fit on the property, and what are the setback requirements that you have to get? You have to get clearance between the house and the detached. You have to get setbacks off the property line, both front yard, side yard. This has a garage, so there's a separate setback for the garage. Those type of things. And then how the utilities are going to connect up, how the stormwater is going to be dealt with. All these things are reflected on a site plan that I draw that is, when we apply for the permits, is turned in as part of the permit application process. Then we get to the preliminary design. We know the space that we can fit it in, so what can we build and what can we do within your budget and within the space required. So this is a preliminary design. It's an exterior elevations. It shows you what it's going to look like. This is this particular one hasn't been built yet. North Portland, we're tearing down an old beater garage and building a new garage with an apartment above it. Here's the floor plans. There's the garage. The entrance will come up the side, go in here, and go up the stairs to a little one-bedroom apartment upstairs. There's infinite varieties about it. As you may or may have already learned, you can build up to 800 square feet or 75% of the living area of the existing house. So 800 square foot max. This one is about 600. So preliminary design, site plan and preliminary design. I take those down to the city, and once I go over that with you, there's a lot of back and forth with the design. Can you do this, can you do that, can you do windows here, can you add a door here, and on and on. Once we get to it's not set in stone, but a good concept, and I take it to the city, go over it with them, over the counter, non-binding with the city, say, this is what me and my customer are proposing to do. Do we meet all these guidelines? And she opens the planning book and we go through it. I also meet with the water department, that's a big cost factor of the water. Transportation, if there's a driveway involved, and try to head off any issues that might come later down the road when we actually apply for a building permit. Very important to get that done before we get too far down the road. Then, with some people, the most important part is what does it cost? I do a complete cost estimate, starting with design and drafting. I typically do all my own design work. I have a draftsman works for me and produces the drawings. Through every line item, all the way up to cleaning the windows and ready to move into. So that estimate is based on what you tell me you want to finish it and incorporate in. The more the customer tells me, the more accurate this is going to be. This is the budget that they use for financing. We establish the building contract. So those items complete the feasibility study, and like I said, it's presented real quick. Again, these are issues that you should address before you finalize the detail, finalize the contract with the builder, or decide to take it on yourself, or whatever you're going to do, so you don't get down the road and things go sideways. Now I'll back up. Back to the flow chart. There we go. So, feasibility study is completed. Then, if we get to this point and you're ready to go with your contractor or with me to sign a building contract, then those plans are finished up, engineering's added to them, more details are added to them, and all the applications are filled out. And you, or the builder, applies to the building permit. That, for a detached unit, well, first of all, to put that stuff together is about 3 weeks from preliminary plan to final plan and applying for the building permit. Apply for the building permit, and for a detached ADU, because it varies, the permit processing time in the city of Portland, if everything's together and it's a complete application, is about 4 to 6 weeks. Less if it's attached, or less if it's within the structure. It doesn't have to go through quite as many departments to do that. So 4 to 6 weeks there, and then, oops, push the wrong button again. Then it's ready to issue, and then start the building process. With most of my ADUs, they range from 12 to 16 weeks building time. An 800 square foot ADU with not a bunch of unusual situations to deal with, I would tell the customer allow 110 to 120 days, and my target would be 100 days. And I usually hit my target. So the whole process is going to take you from the time you're thinking about it until the time it's completed and ready to use is about 6 to 7 months. Now, that's kind of optimum. That's if you don't hold it up, you know, you want to stop and think about it. I had one of my customers that was just here in the last presentation. I have a feasibility study I've done for him. He came to me last November. I put the feasibility study together for him in December and January. But he told me right up front, I'm not building this until next spring. So the more time you spend in that feasibility study, the more successful and less painful your project's going to be down the road. But this is if somebody goes straight through the process and there's not any big holdups along the way. Most of the time, mine fall into this category. I charge, it's up here actually, and I'll include it. I charge right now, my current charge is $1,150 to complete that feasibility study. Then, down the road, or whenever, you guys say, we're ready to go, we've worked everything out, it's time to building contract. I credit that $1,150 back off of the price I've already given you in the estimate. So it's built in, and the design and all that stuff is built in the estimate. It's just covered. I'm not in the business to make a living off of doing feasibility studies. I'm in the business of building ADUs, but it covers my expenses up to that. Sometimes it doesn't cover my expenses.
I just had a quick question.
Yeah.
Where does it, are you an architect, or does an architect fall in this process someplace?
No, not necessarily.
Okay.
It can. If you choose to use an architect, that's fine. I'm just finishing one right now in Southwest Portland that the customer had the architect, had the design, and came to me. And I basically bid against other builders on it and ended up building it. But I am a design builder. So I have the wherewithal to design myself and the wherewithal with my draftsman to do all the drawings necessary for the permit process.
Is that usual that you would find a builder who did both, or?
It's fairly common. Yeah, there's quite a few. And frankly, I don't want to put any architect down, they're great professionals and everything, but you've got a set of requirements. In fact, it's kind of skipped over that. You've got a set of requirements that you have to stick with them within the city of Portland to build ADUs. Size, height, and looks. It has to look like a non-detached. So that sets a lot of the design parameters there. Then you're talking about floor plan and windows and finishes and stuff like that. So there's not a lot of flexibility on what you can do, but it takes a lot of talent to put it all together and make it look right. But we do that quite often. Now I skipped over this, but accessory dwelling, the city of Portland has put out a guideline for building accessory dwelling units, and maybe some of you have seen it. You can get it online at the BDS website, and then a little search box just do accessory dwelling guidelines. And it's a really good little publication that lists out every requirement for all three, detached, attached, and finished structure. I've got an extra one copy up here if anyone wants to just glance at it. Okay, so back to the features. Then you get to the building part. And I could spend a half a day talking about the mechanics of digging a bill, how to put foundations in, and what some of the challenges are. But probably these are the most common things to deal with, challenges in digging a bill. Utility connections, and there was some talk just recently about that in one of the other presentations. Getting the sewer, the water, gas if it's there, and power connected to the ADU. In most cases, you can hook the sewer and the water up to the existing house. But how you do it is always a challenge. Underground, into the basement, into the crawl space, down into the front yard. There's all those things that determine in the feasibility study. The height restriction I mentioned as one of these guideline restrictions is 18 feet from the ground in a detached unit, from the ground to the center of the roof, so halfway between the gutter and the peak, 18 feet. And that pretty much prevents a full two-story, because these things are built in the backyard in a lot of cases on a property, within 5 feet of the property line. They don't want the city's intention. They don't want big two-story buildings right next to the neighbor's house. So it lowers that roof line a little bit. The architect that spoke earlier shows how we do that with roof pitches and dormers and things like that. So it gets almost fully used to the upstairs. But that's probably, in this guideline thing, the most restrictive thing that you're going to run into is the height. And then, when I used to have to explain what an ADU was, the easiest way to explain it for a detached unit is building a little house in somebody's backyard. It's got all the components that a house has, the kitchen, the bathroom, on, electrical, plumbing, and so forth. And you're squeezing that into somebody's backyard in most cases. And you have setbacks off the sidelines and the rear lines that you have to live with. So building the backyard, access for equipment and material, getting concrete back there, getting workers back there, it's a challenge. And I do it all the time, but I have to assess that early on how that's going to work. And you can do it on your own or with contractors. Contractors is definitely something you need to consider. And working in existing neighborhoods in tight conditions. I don't know about you guys, I had to drive here because I came quite a ways away. But there's about 3 or 4 rounds around the blocks to find a parking space. Well, think about plumbers, electricians, heating contractors, framers, all those guys have to work on the house with ADU, with trucks, places. So that's always an issue to figure out ahead of time. So where are these guys going to park? How are they going to get to access the site to work on? And then, as I mentioned earlier, working through that process of getting the permits. I kind of breezed over that 4 to 6 weeks. There's a lot that goes on during that 4 to 6 weeks with me and the city or with whoever's processing the permit in the city, back and forth, pushing it through different departments, answering questions, supplying more information. So it's a challenge, but it's something I do all the time, but it's something you need to kind of be prepared. And then, as we just got done with the last presentation, financing, and this is getting much better. When I first started doing ADUs, appraisers didn't have a clue how to appraise them, so lenders didn't have a clue how to lend money on them, and it was a problem. It's loosened up a whole lot more now with the popularity and with the number of units that are being built. They're not going to pass up business now that they see it. And so it's getting better. It's still not great. It's still a new thing for a lot of lenders, and there's only a few, like the one we just heard from, and a couple others in town that are actually actively promoting financing. But it's getting better. So those are just some of the few of the many challenges that you face in doing it. And I don't say that from a negative standpoint, but it's real. It's what you're going to run into. I'm just going to go through just some examples and tell you a little case history on some of these, and then we can open it up for questions. This is one in Selwood. They didn't have a garage. This is the existing house. When they bought it, the old garage was gone. We think it burned down years ago. Built a new one, a new garage with about a 600 square foot ADU above it. This is a kind of a cool concept that I've done numerous times, where they didn't have a garage. So this garage here, there's a wall that separates these two garages here. So this one here has a back door, and it's for the people that own the house. This was a separate garage for the person who's in the ADU. They pull straight in, there's an inside door that goes in the entry, and they go up to the apartment. That's a concept that's kind of handy for people that want a garage for the existing house and want an ADU. Here's another one that's kind of similar in case. This is in Eastmoreland. There's the before, there's the old garage. And it wasn't in bad shape. Most of the ones I do are falling apart and they're not functional anymore. This one, the guy wanted to build an ADU back behind it. The gentleman owned this house, raised his kids here, lived here for 40 years. I built him an ADU in the back behind it, 800 square feet. He sold the house to his daughter and son-in-law and 5 kids. So they live in this house, he lives in the back. He's about 80-something, it's good shape. And now he provides a great place for them, and he's got a place close to his relatives with his own space. That happens a lot with elderly people that want their own space, their own independence, but still want to be close to their relatives. So here you can see how I matched the existing house. That's the garage. Unfortunately, in this case, you can't see much behind here for the ADU. It has its own entrance back here, and then an 800 square foot ADU is tucked behind the house itself. This is just a little cottage. This is like 59th and Flanders, northeast. Again, an unusable, funky little garage behind the house. The house looks like this, the same type of siding, the same kind of roof pitch. Even matched for little flower boxes on it. This is not a garage, it's just a one level with a loft. About 700 square feet. This was a rental that rented out immediately. Another one in Eastmoreland, this one I like to use because it's got every challenge in the book here, in that this is a shared driveway with the neighbor. This is the old garage that was back in the back. It wasn't in too bad a shape, but they wanted to build a place for her mother to move here from the East Coast, and this is it back here. Literally a granny, but not a flat, and it's upstairs. But it connects with the house, so that she can go straight into the house too. But it has its own side entrance, where if she's gone someday, they can rent it out as a separate. But this one, another portfolio I have pictures. On the other side was 3 feet off the swimming pool. I had to drain the swimming pool and hope it didn't collapse. Put the foundation in and tighten, no room for materials. Like I said, there's every challenge available on that. Another one here. This is off of Stark, the Laurelhurst area. The old garage was unusable, built a new one back here. Not a new garage, this one fairly, just finished it this fall on North Albina on the back alley. This is where I built the ADU, where this is sitting now. This is the back alley. No garage there. We did a one-car garage for the owner. And then the ADU right here, and so part of it downstairs was finished as living room, kitchen, and 2 bedrooms back and a half. So this maxed out at 800 square feet. There you can see it's 18 feet from the center of this roof to the ground. I can't get full height walls up here, but I use dormers to get usable space up there. This is Hollywood district. 25th and Clackamas. That's the old garage. We did the same thing here. We put a partition wall down the middle. The homeowner uses this garage, and ADU uses this. This came up earlier in one of the presentations today. She is a realtor. Very nice. So you go in this door, you're still outside. You're under this roof. You go upstairs and under this porch, and that's the entrance to the ADU. And this totally matches the existing house, the details, the colors. She furnished it and used it as short-term rental. People that are working on a TV show that they make here, they rent from her, and different people that are here for 2-3 months. So that's another use. Little one-car garage in Selwood. Couldn't fit a car, couldn't fit a boat in it, which is what he had, and wanted more than another boat in his car. So we built a bigger garage and a loft apartment above it. This one's really close by, Emerson at 29. It's on a corner lot. This matches the profile of the house out front. The front of the house faces the other way. This is for their mother. She actually paid for this to be built, so she'd have a place to live instead of living somewhere else that she's going to have to pay for. This is the inside examples. Kitchen. I made it 88. Although she's in great shape, I made it 88 compliant. And this is on casters. You can roll this island out of the way. The bathroom's 88, adaptable. No barriers inside the house. And 82. Here's some interiors. That was a little cottage, and how you use space underneath stairways. I tucked the kitchen underneath the stairway there. Stairway going up. And then this is the one over off Alvina, the living kitchen area on the first level. There's the one. That's how close I was. This is all new. And I learned from him. I got an engineer, and I learned from an engineer you can't just drain the pool, or with the groundwater we have here, it'll pop it out of the ground. But you can't leave it full, because if you cut down next to it that close, the sidewalls will blow out. So we drained it halfway, calculated this and that. I spent many sleepless nights until we had it back. It went great. It had every challenge. Here's the inside of it. Somebody mentioned, I don't know if anybody's been in any creeks, they were talking about heat. Like these are ductless heat pumps. I use a lot. We use a lot. ADUs. The architect that was here didn't like them, didn't like the looks of them. Would rather go with electric heat. But just to show you, I don't know if you can see it that well, but right there in the wall is the inside unit for the ductless heat pump. And they are excellent for these little 800 or less structures. Very high efficiency. There's a couple pictures inside. Yes, that's one there. That's a ceiling now, but it's blowing out cool or hot. There's a loft in the cottage that I showed you. That's the loft bedroom. That's another attic loft bedroom. And just a standard bathroom with a skylight outside lighting. It's hard. Here's the ones that the seasonal rental. We use recycled flooring and flooring then maple floor. If you know, it was real high gold, it was real high school. She furnished it and rinsed that out as a short term. This little gas fireplace heats that. It's pretty amazing. We put a little electric heater in the bathroom and in the bedroom. It just rarely comes on. But that's just a standard little gas fireplace. About 80% additional pieces ADU. That's the one in Sellwood. Better interior pictures here. That's in this corner right here. That's the living room. And off the side up here is the kitchen. Kind of difficult to take pictures inside ADUs because the space is so tall and small. You need really wide angle lenses to do it. And then just to finish up, I know this is all about ADUs, but this invariably comes up. What about a home office? What about a hobby room? What about this? Is so I get into doing all kinds of other specialty structures. And this happens to be a glass blowing student. She actually teaches classes and does her own glass blowing in this theater. Pretty cool. It's one of my neighbors' backyard. This one is kind of a day spa where the lady does facials, massage, things like that. That's over here in the overlook area in North Portland. You cannot have a home occupancy business and an ADU on the same property. So it's either or. This can be converted back to an ADU later on. But we cannot permit it as an ADU and use it as a business. So that's a key thing to remember. And then this happened to be a massage studio. Had a sauna, steam room, 2 massage rooms, and so forth. So that's my presentation. I'm open to any type of questions you want. I have information. I have a brochure in the back. I have a copy of the feasibility study's flow chart up here if you like it. And I guess I'll just open it up to questions. Yes, sir?
Yeah, I wonder if you can tell us a little bit about cost. Let's say you have a middle of the road, average quality finish, 500 or 600 feet. What would be some ranges there on the price per foot for, say, freestanding welding, all in from start to finish?
Okay, sure. I'll start answering that question by telling you how I'm not going to answer it. No, I'm going to answer it, but everybody asks how much per square foot. That's a wide range of finishes and site conditions and things like that. I'm going to answer your question. I'll give you a range. The other thing with ADUs is they're small structures. So the cost per square foot of an 800 square foot ADU is going to be way more cost per square foot than a 2,000 square foot house. Because you have similar components. You have kitchens, bathrooms, permits, site work, all those things are just smaller spaces. So with my experience and my historic data from ones I've built, you mentioned 600 square foot. That's going to be in the 140 to 150 dollars per square foot range in cost, and that's everything in the city of Fort Worth, permits we've finished and design. 800 square foot will come down towards 140, 135 per square foot. Most of my 800 square foot ones, depending on the configuration, are going to be from 110 to 120,000 in that range. And then small ones, I just did a 350 square foot one, was around 65,000. And so they'll range from there to 100, depending on whether 6, 7, 800 square feet. Hope that answers it. That's the best I can do.
I have a question. If you had a property where you did either detached or an attached, you think either detached, attached, or like maybe your basement, what is one? Is there a way to compare them which one is more advantageous or less costly, or consider not taking into consideration what you put on the finishes and all that, but just in terms of
That's a really, really good question. I don't think I've had that asked me. Generally speaking, if what you have to do to put one within the structure, whether it's in the basement or within, say, an attic, or take part of the house out and finishing it off costs more than you think it would, and it's not too far off from what the detached or attached would be. Because there's all kinds of inherent issues with fire separations and rewiring. You have to separate out the wiring and the plumbing between the two areas where one can't control the other. So it gets into, in most cases that I've run into when I've looked at that, it makes more sense to go to detached or attached. Now, if that's the only route you can go, then that's what we look at, and we go with it and we figure it out. Between detached and attached, it really depends on the situation. Not a whole lot of difference, especially if it's what I consider a clean attached, where you're just putting it on like a Shoto one, where it's just attached onto the side of the existing garage. That's pretty clean for you. You can't go in the garage and do a firewall, but it's pretty close to the same, generally speaking. Yes, sir.
What kind of issues do you run into if you're trying to convert a garage on the changing of the roof or just the general specs? Have you ever run into a situation where you had a garage that was not permitted originally, say back in 1950 when it was built, and now you're going to kind of try to come into an ADU?
Yeah.
I
get a lot of calls for that.
If you know anything about that, I appreciate hearing what you're
Okay,
saying.
well, I'll tell you what I do know generally is, generally speaking, if it's an older garage, say prior to even 1970, I consider energy space an older garage. If you start putting a dwelling in that garage, you're pretty much going to come up to today's code. And more than likely, the foundation wouldn't meet today's code. The structure may not, as far as the roof rafters or the structural things. So you end up redoing a lot. That's not to say it's not worth doing, but it's a lot more than, I get calls all the time, I want to just convert this garage to an ADU, and you think they're going to throw some plumbing there and slap some sheetrock up, and it's good. They're going to analyze it like it's a new structure. As far as the footing, you have to have an engineer verify the footing can handle it, or how you're going to expand the footing to make it work. The structure.
What I have heard from just one or two people is that if the original garage was permitted, say in 1950,
Partially. They do grandfather some things in, like if it has 2x4 walls, they can't, and you're finishing off that space, they can't make you do 2x6 walls. They let you use the existing conditions, so you're insulating not up to today's standards, but the best you can do in this situation. What I'm talking about is mainly structural issues. And structural issues, they want to know that it's structurally sound by today's standards. So there's certain things they let you go with, but not safety and structural things so much. Each one's an individual case, but that's just kind of generally what I know.
can you describe a little bit about how you get paid?
I get paid.
How much does you put up front?
As much as possible, as soon as possible. Typically, on my contract, it's usually, we've done this cost estimate, we know what it is, say it's $100,000, we know it's $100,000, and we walk through the design, all the specifications, we sign a building contract. I typically get 15% deposit on the building contract. And then the remainder is divided into usually 4 payments at real specific stages of completion. When the foundation is in, all the utilities are hooked up, and the backfill is done. That's one. When it's framed up to the roof sheeting and ready for shingles, that's 2. And when the sheet rock is on, that means all the electrical, plumbing, and all that stuff is rubbed in, insulation, it's all inspected, and the sheet rock's on, that's 3. And then when it's final by the city, we agree that we bless it and say, yep, it's done, and I'm happy. So it's usually pretty close to equal payments, but there's a little variance. It's based on what's completed. I don't get out in front of people, it's just what's completed at that stage. It's very defined.
It's a percentage of the value of the house? Is that what?
Yes.
15%?
Well, the deposit is 15% of the value of the house. Of the contract, the building.
So the deposit is 15% of the, like if your house is valued at 100, then it's going to be 15% back?
Right. The ADU is $100,000. Just a contract deposit payment to get me going. I've got to put the plans together, get through the permits and all we take the remainder of it and we divide it out into four. Pretty close to equal, but it's based on what's complete percentage. Up to the ridge is 40%. I'll get it here somewhere.
The ADU came up in 15% off. It's like
lot coverage.
is that a whole sign? Including the house or making sign off of the original house there? So you put in there.
Yes, I know the answer to that. It's a statement. There's a lot coverage, maximum percentage of all the buildings on the property. It's not 15%. Accessory buildings, any kind of garage or something like that you add in, maybe the 15%. I really need to look that one up. But it's a percentage of the total lot, what you can cover. All structures are one restriction. Other than all of that.
I've been trying to figure out resale value. So if you build a backyard cottage, do you have any clients who've actually sold and sort of know whether or not it's bought out or what they put in?
No, that's a really good question.
Earlier presentation, they said that a survey that was done, a study in 2009, was showing that the houses were selling for on an average of 4.2% higher than a comparable house without an ADU. But that was 2009, so they're working on doing a more recent study.
Yeah, I would probably talk to some of the people here in this real estate company or others on that. It's a good question. I'd like to know.
I was wondering if you've encountered any situations where you have a property that's already zoned as a duplex, and so you can't, my understanding, you can't build an ADU, you have to apply for a zoning change. Does that get quite a bit more complicated and more expensive?
Yeah, ADUs are designed only to go on lots with a single family home. So if you already have a duplex, it wouldn't even qualify. Are you talking about trying to convert back to your house with an ADU, or you already have a duplex, you're not building another ADU?
Even if the lot size is over 5,000 square feet and the city said that we could put 4 units on it?
Well, that's a different issue. You can subdivide it for issues on one lot, one residential lot, one parcel, residential on R5, R2.5 is like higher density where you put 4 or 5 on a block. You still have to either subdivide it or you go into kind of the commercial.
We have that.
So, yeah, so ADUs don't apply to that. You just be building adding an additional unit to an apartment building, so to speak. Which in some ways is good. You're not as restricted. In other ways it's not so good because it doesn't even cost more. Yes.
Can the client be involved in the process to help bring the cost down?
Yes. Yes, but qualification we worked that out during a feasibility study. I don't personally like it when somebody says, well, my uncle's an electrician, I want to get him. My son-in-law's best friend is a plumber. I kind of lose control of the project. And I'm responsible for the whole thing and permits and inspection. But if the customer says, we want to supply the flooring, we've got an in on that, this is what we want to do, we want to do painting ourselves, things along those lines, I'm flexible to work with. They're usually not code related. Electrical plumbing. I'll do a one-time site visit, meet you, spend as much time as you want, look at the site, give you my opinion, answer your questions, whatever you want. So, yeah. No obligation, no cost.
My question was about the feasibility study and whether or not you use that as
terms of the city, height, looks, society, good it is. So, but floor plan wise, I like this floor plan, can you make that work? Yeah. In fact, one of the information I was better for me is get started. So,
You might have some similar issues.
right.
After this one. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Say you buy a house that has a garage, and the garage is sitting right on the property. Can you utilize that existing?
Yeah, I just did that, just like we're wrapping me up here, but I just did that on one. Here's the restriction on it, so very restricted, but it worked for this one particular case. Convert that garage on a property line, grandfathered in, if you don't change the footprint, you don't add to it or modify the footprint, and you don't go up. So,
Just use the original.
yeah, and that's what the lady that was here before me, she had an existing one-car garage, she kept the footprint, and I don't even know if that was on the property, but she just finished the inside of it. We just did one in Southeast Florida. Okay, thank you very much.